Hey everybody, it is Chris, and today I'm going to be talking about a house rule that you probably use to some degree, even if you don't know that you're using a house rule. And I promise you I'm going to get very nitpicky here, and the purpose of this video isn't to tell you how you should play D&D or even make a recommendation to you, simply to let you know how the rules work. So if you choose to use house rules here, at least you know that you're using house rules and how it would play if you didn't. So we are going to begin with a character. So this could be any kind of character, but they have armor, a shield, and a weapon. Okay, very common character in D&D. This could be a spellcaster. This could be a non-spellcaster, but their hands are full right now. They've got a weapon and a shield. So let's say you are playing and this is your character and you're on a map and you want to go open a door. And we are currently in combat, but we want to open a door, run through it. Can you do that? No, you can't. At least according to the rules as written. Because if you want to open a door, you must use an interaction. So let's look at that. This is in Chapter 1 of the 2024 Player's Handbook, but if you use the 2014 Player's Handbook, just know that this video applies to you as well, and there's very similar rules in the 2014 Player's Handbook, and where there are differences, I will point them out. But interacting with things is mostly the same, except in the 2014 rules, they give you a few more examples. But it says, interacting with things. You can interact with one object or feature of the environment for free, either during your move or action. For example, you could open a door during your move as you stride towards a foe. If you want to interact with a second object, you need to take the utilize action. Some magic items or other special objects require an action to use, as stated in their descriptions. The DM might require you to use an action for any of these activities when it needs special care or when it presents an unusual obstacle. For instance, the DM might require you to use the utilize action to open a stuck door or turn a crank to lower a drawbridge. So opening a door, presuming it's not stuck, it's just a regular door, would require an interaction. However, what are you grabbing the door with? This character would need to put their sword or their shield away to grab the door. Now, they could put their shield away, but that would require their action. Either equipping or unequipping a shield both require an action in the 2024 rules and the 2014 rules. Furthermore, they have a weapon, and to put that weapon away, they need to use their interaction. As I'm editing this, I realize I would be remiss not to mention that you could also put away your sword using your utilize action. However, just be aware then that you would be giving up your action in order to put away your sword. And that's again the same 2024 and 2014. And if we use our interaction to put away the weapon, then we're not using our interaction to open the door. I will give you another example. So this character is in combat and an ally has just gone down. So you want to help them out. So you run up to them and you feed them a potion. Can you do that? No, you can't do that because, again, you would need to stow your weapon, which is an interaction, and then you would need to pull out the potion to feed them. That's also an interaction. You only get one interaction. Now, if you use your action as well, potentially you could do it, but if you just want to use an interaction and your bonus action, which it normally takes to feed somebody a potion, you can't do that under the rules. Now, there is a way we can get this sword put away on our turn, and that is through the attack action. So here's the attack action, and we now have rules for equipping and unequipping weapons, and this is not in the 2014 rules. In the 2014 rules, you do not have this flexibility, but now we do. It says, equipping and unequipping weapons, you can either equip or unequip one weapon when you make an attack as part of this action. You do so either before or after the attack, and if you equip a weapon before the attack, you don't need to use it for that attack. Equipping a weapon includes drawing it from a sheath or picking it up. Unequipping a weapon includes sheathing, stowing, or dropping it. And I want to just highlight here, dropping it is considered unequipping a weapon, so it's not free. Now, because this wasn't in the 2014 rules, we never knew whether dropping a weapon was free or not. Jeremy Crawford tweeted something about, he'd probably allow it in his game, but that's not a rule. it didn't cover it in the rules. So dropping it depended on your table and your DM. But now it's very clear that dropping your weapon is unequipping your weapon, which you can do with equipping or unequipping weapons as part of the attack action, or presumably you could do as an interaction. So this attack action does give us a little flexibility. However, we can still end up with problems. For example, I recently presented a wizard build. And with the wizard, I took a dip in Ranger, and I took Weapon Mastery with Warhammer, and I figured what we could do is, on our turn, we could draw our Warhammer, and then, we could attack using True Strike, and then we could take advantage of Weapon Mastery to apply a Push Mastery to that as well, and push the opponent 10 feet away. And that does work because we can use our interaction to draw the Warhammer. The problem is, and this was mentioned in the comments of that video, and it's absolutely true, is if we use our interaction to draw the Warhammer, and then we cast True Strike, we can't unequip the Warhammer at the end of our turn, because casting True Strike is not the attack action. And this bit about equipping and unequipping weapons as part of the attack action says specifically that you can do that as part of this action, as in the attack action. True Strike is not the attack action unless you are doing it as part of a Valor Bard that's level 6 or an Eldritch Knight that is level 7. And presumably a Blade Singer at level 6 using the older rules. But my wizard was none of those things, so they would be stuck with this Warhammer at the end of their turn. And this could present a problem because let's say they were then attacked when it's not their turn and they want to cast a shield spell. Well, they would be out of luck because the shield spell has a somatic component. And that means we wouldn't have the free hand in which to cast that spell. Now, it was mentioned to me that maybe what I could do is use a quarterstaff instead. And that way I could use the quarterstaff as an arcane focus to cast a shield spell. But that doesn't work. Because it says under material components, the spellcaster must have a hand free to access them, but it can be the same hand used to perform somatic components, if any. This only applies to spells that have a material component. The shield spell doesn't have a material component, meaning this doesn't apply. All that applies is we must have use of one of our hands. And if we are holding a Warhammer, or if we are holding an arcane focus, then we don't have a hand free to perform the somatic component. So holding a staff doesn't really help us out here. So what can we do? Well, we can take the Warcaster feat. The Warcaster feat at the end says somatic components. You can perform the somatic components of spells even when you have weapons or a shield in one or both hands. So that means that our character, even holding their spellcasting focus or a Warhammer, could cast a shield spell. But we wouldn't necessarily be able to cast any of our wizard spells. Because if we are holding our Warhammer, then we don't have a hand free to access a material component. So we're okay casting spells with a somatic component and no material component, but not okay to cast spells that have a material component. But there are additional issues that you might not be thinking about, because the new rules give us rules for crafting scrolls. So this caster here might have crafted a bunch of scrolls, but if we want to cast them, then we have to pull them out. And that would require an interaction. And we'd have to put our arcane focus away. And that would require an interaction. And it's even more restrictive. So let's say, for example, this spellcaster here has been grappled. All right, so they're grappled and they would like to get away. Now, fortunately, they have a scroll of Misty Step. And let's say also, fortunately, they're not holding their staff, so they have a hand free to grab their scroll of Misty Step. So they figure what I'll do is I will grab my scroll of Misty Step, and then I will cast Misty Step, get out of this grapple, and now I have my movement and my action to do whatever I want. Except, no, you don't. You can't do that, because according to the rules on interactions, you can only take them during either your move or your action, not as part of your bonus action. So we're grappled, we can't move, and we want to take our action later, so there's no way to use an interaction to draw that scroll of Misty Step so that we can cast Misty Step. Now, tell me that you're playing the rules that way. So anyone here who is thinking that they were going to comment below, I play exactly the rules as written, tell me you play that way. I'm sure there's some of you, but I bet there's not many. And what is the last time your character with a shield was told by your dungeon master that you can't open a door or you can't feed an ally a healing potion because your hands are full. And here's something I thought was interesting. I don't run the rules as written at my table this way. My DMs don't run it this way. But if they did, I do think what we would see are a lot more spellcasters who didn't do an armor dip. So if I make a wizard or I make a sorcerer or maybe a warlock or a bard in some cases, what I will often do is I will dip another class for what we call an armor dip. So we might dip ranger or paladin now in 2024, but always we would have considered things like cleric or druid or artificer in order to get medium armor and shield proficiency, because if I don't have those, then I'm stuck with things like mage armor. If I have mage armor, what am I looking at? Depending on my dexterity, I might have a 15 or 16 armor class. But as soon as I do the armor dip, I'm looking at 18 or 19. That's a big increase. Well worth it. But if we consider all the issues that interactions have when we're wearing a shield, we might not want the shield on. And if we're not going to use the shield, then suddenly medium armor doesn't give us much at all. Maybe one armor class. And is that worth dipping another class and having your spell level progression a level behind to do it? I don't know that it is. In that case, I do think we would see a lot more spellcasters that look more traditional. Though once again, I do want to mention, I'm not telling you how to play D&D. This is not a recommendation video. I just want to let you know how these rules work, because I imagine a lot of people who house rule this kind of thing, at least to some degree. You know, you got the guy with weapon and a shield, and he goes up to an ally to save his life and give him a healing potion. I just don't see DMs who tell you that you can't do it because you don't have a hand free to draw the potion and you don't have two interactions. I just don't see that. But again, if you are one of those people who play that way, let me know. Otherwise, I assume most of us play with house rules in D&D, even for those of us who didn't realize we did. So I thought that was interesting. It kind of came up after my wizard video came up in the comments, and it sent me down this rabbit hole along with some friends, and we kind of talked about it, and I thought I should talk about this in a video. So I hope you found it interesting. Otherwise, until next time, I'm going to sit back, relax, and have some fun. D&D is for everyone. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon.